So I got up this morning and it's absolutely frozen outside. Baltic. Been hiding in the front room in front of a log burner most of the day, and well, let's just see what Alexa says. Alexa, what's the temperature outside?
At the moment, it's 3 degrees Celsius. Tonight, you can expect a low of -3 degrees.
Yeah, Baltic. It's not the day for riding motorbikes in my book. So with that, what I've done is I'm going to pull out the 50cc bike and we'll go through a cold start. And it's pretty cold, so it's about as cold as it gets really. So yeah, we'll do a cold start. One of the guys that follows the channel asked me to do this, so we'll go through the procedure and hopefully it'll start.
Back with the 50cc bike, and somebody asked me about starting these things from cold. It's not as daft a question as you might think actually, because like I say, with the 125 that we've got, you just press a button, well, you switch the ignition on, press a button. There's nothing much else to think about. Obviously check your tyre pressures and all that sort of stuff if you've not ridden it for a while. With one of these, yeah, I mean, I come from an aviation background, so I'm always doing walk rounds, making sure everything looks right. I've not ridden it for a while, like I say, check the tyre pressures while it's cold, all that sort of good stuff. But specifically for the actual startup procedure on this thing, there's a couple of little quirks which are probably worth mentioning. So first of all, you've got a manual fuel cock. Let's see if we can see it. Right, don't know if you can see that, but you've got this little thing here, and basically that's off, that's on, and then if you run out of petrol, you can click it to reserve. You've got a slightly longer pipe, and that gives you a couple of miles to get to a petrol station in theory, so we'll leave that on. So that's the first check. Next thing, obviously, well, it's not obvious actually, there's a strange thing with this bike, and I've not had an actual road bike with this, and that is it's got no battery. So yeah, it's a little bit odd. So when you switch the ignition on, nothing happens. So the main concern with that is, it's no big deal to be honest, but yeah, the main concern is obviously you switch it on, you can't see if you're in neutral or not. So obviously I've wheeled it out the shed, I know it's in neutral, otherwise it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna move. So, you know, you can double check that, give it a little push. Yeah, it's quite happy to move. It's definitely in neutral, otherwise that back wheel would be locking up on you. So that's good, definitely a check worth doing, because obviously if you're going to try and kickstart it, the thing's going to try and move on you, because there's no battery. And another side to that is the fact that you have to start it with the clutch out. So if you try and start it with the clutch in, as I was doing initially, it doesn't turn the engine or do anything, it doesn't get that generator moving, so you basically get no electricity, no spark, and the thing doesn't start. So you've got to start it with a clutch out. So check your fuel, make sure it's on, clutch out. It's proper old school, this is very much like my old bikes from the past. So you've got this thing here, it's a manual choke, so that's the off position. If you're going to start it, like I say, you've just heard Alexa, she says it's 3 degrees. Probably going to pull that. I'll start off with pretty full. I always find full doesn't generally like it, so maybe do that and then just back it off as like a small detent, just back it off one, see what that does. Kickstart, that goes on, and literally you get a quick flash of electricity. It must be stored in the capacitor or something, and it goes out within a couple of seconds. But no neutral light came on then, so what can you do? Right, other things to check maybe, 2-stroke, just make sure you got some of that, because these things just live and die, these engines. If you run out of 2-stroke oil, this thing's just not, it's going to seize. But I always, every time I fill it up with fuel, I always check the 2-stroke level. I've got tons of it in my shed, so I literally run that quite full most of the time, so for that particular reason. Doesn't matter about the ignition being on, we're not running a battery down because it don't have one. Right, so let's see how this goes. It's probably going to take a while, it's not been started for a few weeks, so let's see what happens. It's tempting to want to pull that, but I'm not going to. There you go. I tend to blip the throttle just a little bit as a kick. I don't know if you need to, but I do. Doesn't seem to have a kill switch on the stand, so it's, you see, we've still only done 177 miles on this thing. But yeah, it's pretty cool. You've got a few. Don't want to put that in prematurely because I'm guilty of that. And then it. So what else have we got on here? So yeah, on the dash we've got things like, you've got your trip clocks. I tend to, because there's no actual gives you your max speed and all this sort of stuff. I run trip A every time I fill it. I always fill it right to the top. Trip A is like it's like a pseudo fuel gauge, if you like. I've not got it to the point where it's going to run out yet, but that's basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to see when it runs out, and I'm going to take 5 miles off it, and every time I hit that number I'm going to fill it right up. But we generally keep a bit of fuel here anyway, so quite often after that I'll probably keep it fairly full most of the time. So that's it. Obviously as the bike warms up, you just back this off. The bike will tell you if it's not happy about the level of choke that you're running. And yeah, you just it's like proper old school. Listen to the engine, decide if you think it's happy or not, and act accordingly. Because if it's fairly happy, but you can see it's not holding the same amount of revs anymore. So, but you'll find as it gets a bit warmer, it'll start to show its displeasure at you having that choke, because it's giving you so much of a rich mixture. It really is just down to your engine, the ambient temperature, and however it goes. So as you can see, let's get off and show you. It's a 2-stroke, it's not warm, and despite being Euro 5, it's kicking out some crap. Right, I'll switch it off before I fill my exhaust full of 2-stroke oil. There we go. So, hope that was helpful for you, because like I say, I ain't got many subscribers. I've got about 18 now, and my latest subscriber just said, would I mind going through the cold start procedure, and that's basically what I look at. So quick walk around the bike, make sure there's nothing hanging off it, check the tyre pressures if I've not ridden it for a while, make sure I've got 2-stroke, make sure I've got fuel, stopcock on, ignition, and then make sure I'm in neutral. You'll know because you'll have probably pushed it somewhere. If you haven't, just make sure rock that bike back in 2, and then make sure the clutch is out, a little bit of choke, kick it, might take 2 or 3 goes. And again, I don't know, it's my thing, literally I'll just give it a little tiny I'm not holding it open or anything, but literally as I'm kicking it, if it's not working, I'll just give it a little bit of that, just a tiny blip of the throttle. I don't know, it's just my thing. I'm sure there's many people who would say that's wrong, and I'm not saying this is the correct way to cold start one of these bikes, but it works for me, and that's what I do. So I'm no more knowledgeable than the next guy, so I'm sure there's people who'd think that that's not a good thing to do, but it works, so why not? That's what I do. Hope that helps. Cheers guys, catch you next time.